Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Well, back home on Dalal Street, the Nifty closed at a record closing high for the 15th time this year, rallying more than 1%. The Sensex also had a firm close at over 37,300, led by a 350-point gain. Broader markets rallied, which was in line with the benchmark indices. The mid-cap and the Bank Nifty rallied close to 1%, with the Bank Nifty ending also at a record closing high. So, Nigel, what does trade look like today?
Well, today actually it's going to be a very result-heavy day, Ekta, because the number of companies that will be reacting to its numbers and who are expecting their numbers today on the Nifty itself is more than 25%. So that's a rather large number. But no worries, really. The SGX Nifty is indicating a more or less flattish start. Last week, remember, the Nifty, the Sensex, as well as the Nifty Bank, all of them ended at record highs. And the most positive last week was, yes, the Nifty and the Nifty Bank, they did well. They ended with gains of around 2 to around 2.5%. But we saw really the rally was broadening. And in fact, the mid-cap and the small-cap space, that outperformed the frontliners. So that was quite encouraging, telling you that some of those mid-caps, they're getting money yet again. And that's, really helping sentiment. In Friday's trading session, well, ITC, that was a star. Delivered a good set of numbers that contributed more than 30% to the total gains that we saw. And the FIs, they have returned to buying. In the last 5 trading sessions, the FIs, the last 6 trading sessions, they've been buying 5 out of the 6. In Friday's trading session, they bought 740 crores. The DIs as well pumped in nearly around 400 crores. So institutions net, they bought more than 1,100 crores. Remember, FIs, they are bullish in the derivatives market as well. On Friday, they added 2 long positions for every 1 short. The 2 long positions account for 18,000 contracts. That's a rather large number. The total positioning on the index, the FIs, they're net long. 59% of their positions are on the long side. And in fact, it was bullish all around. In terms of index options, they bought 7 calls for 1 put. They wrote nearly around 3 puts for 1 call, telling you that, in fact, they believe this market is going to trend higher. Bullish in the cash market, bullish in the F&O markets. All the DMAs, well, the Nifty is trading well above those levels, so no worries on that front. The results we're looking out for today, Reliance Industries, those numbers look good. Petchem business, so they delivered a strong EBIT number. Standard disclosure, it's the owner, of the channel that you're currently watching. ICICI Bank as well. Well, out there we had some improvement in terms of asset quality. The ADR overnight, that ended with some gains. So that's quite interesting. Let's see how the stock reacts. There have been multiple, multiple earnings estimates that were cut, that were flashing for you on the screen. CLSA, they say that it's a top pick in the banking space. So keep an eye out on ICICI Bank. And HCL Tech, well, the constant currency growth numbers, that was a little bit lower than what the street was working with. Though the order wins and the deal pipeline looks very, very good. So the remainder of this year could be quite good. And NDPC, well, more or less a stable set of numbers. So that's about the Nifty stocks that are reacting to its numbers. Other numbers, Ekta will be expecting today. Axis Bank will be quite interesting. HDFC as well as Tech Mahindra. Those are all the Nifty companies that you should keep your eye out on.
And what about the other stocks?
Well, there are plenty of results really today from the broader markets, a whole host of numbers. I've just put a few of them up for you on the screen from the mid-cap space. You have the likes of Interglobe, you have D-Mart, that's Avenue Supermarts. Let's get that list just running for you on the screen. You have Idea, Century Textiles, JP Associates, even Oberoi Realty. These are just a few of them. You have more. You have a whole host of numbers that are coming out with numbers today. In terms of result reactions, Bank of Baroda, the good part was the loan growth number was very, very impressive. That came in at around 20%, so good going there. Equitas, well, the loan growth was strong, but the NIMs are at all-time lows. And the earnings then would be a tad bit lower than what the street was working with. So keep an eye out on Equitas. Now let's run you through some good results. Godavari Power and Ispat numbers look good operationally, as well as the net profit that reduced some debt as well. So very good going there. Coromandel International margin expansion looked good. XL Crop Care, that looked good. Margin expansion out there as well. Apcotex, in fact, there those numbers look very, very strong. Both the Lumax twins, that's Lumax Auto as well as Lumax Industries, good numbers all around there. Valuations could be something that you should keep an eye out on that stock. Jayant Agro as well, the numbers look quite good. In terms of numbers that didn't look very, very good, well, JK Cement, the numbers are as bad as expected. Exposure to North India, good amount of petcoke forms their fuel mix. That stock, it's already at a fresh 52-week low that we saw it hit last week itself. So let's see the reaction out there. Indian overseas banks, the losses continue. Gross NPAs at more than 25% and yet growing even marginally. Keep an eye out on that one. Hitachi, well, the margins, they were a bit of a disappointment. So keep an eye out on that stock. And besides result reactions, keep an eye out on PNB. Remember, Yash told us in Friday's trading session that PNB, MetLife, they're likely to file their DRHP. That's precisely what happened. The few stocks you should look at will be PNB, of course. Elpro is another company that you should be keeping an eye out on because they have stake in PNB, MetLife. And J&K Bank, they've already said they're going to be diluting some stake. So all these three stocks should be on your radar. Ritz, we should keep an eye out on that stock. They won a big order to the tune of around 560 crores. So keep an eye out on that one. And Thyroke, well, they're going to be considering a buyback on the August 4th.
The Reserve Bank of India has started another round of asset quality review. It sends out a fresh list of 240 odd accounts that banks have to recognize as NPA. Lata's here with the details this morning. Lata, over to you.
Well, this is very important news for the banks and those who are invested in the banking sector. What the Reserve Bank has sent out is, as you said, a further list of 240 accounts that it wants recognized as NPA. Now, actually, most of those, I'll just read out some of those names for you. Well, let me add that this is being still under discussion and we don't know when the final order will come from Reserve Bank. Look at the names: Reliance Naval, JSPL, Ratnagiri Gas, Teesta Urea, Tamil Nadu Genco, Lalit Power Genco, JP Power Ventures, that's JPVL, Haldia Petrochemicals, Lanco, Kondapalli, Rolta India, Jindal India Thermal, Lanco Vidarbha, GMR Kamalanga, Patel Engineering, Juniper Hotels, Patna Highway, KSK Mahanadi, Lanco, several plants, Lanco Resources International, Lanco Baband, Habua Power, Udupi Power, Bhavnagar Energy. Now, the point is most of these are already recognized as NPA. Then why is this important? This is important because the Reserve Bank is asking banks to recognize them as NPA from a previous date. Now, what happens is in the first year when a loan is recognized as NPA, a bank has to provide 15%. The second year, it has to provide 25%. For third year, it has to provide 40%, and fourth year, 100%. So if you ask me to recognize Lanco or Ratnagiri from 2012, then today, this year, I have to provide 100%. If you ask me to recognize it from this year, then I have to provide only 15 or 25%. So that is the big problem for banks. If they have to provide 100% on some of these assets like Ratnagiri, which RBI is saying was NPA quite some time back and has been just kept green, then banks have a problem. Then they will have very high provisioning and one more year of losses, and probably the capital that the government will give will only be adequate for provisioning and will not be enough for growth. Then there is a growth issue also for some of the PSU banks. That's what we have to take on board. It's still under discussion. The banks are trying to assess how much the impact on their capital and on their losses will be. And accordingly, a decision will be taken. But it looks like FY19 is going to be another write-off year.
Okay. All right, Lata. Thanks very much for that. Well, the government has, in fact, constituted a high-level empowered committee in order to revive stressed thermal power projects. The committee will be headed by Cabinet Secretary P.K. Sinha and other representatives from ministries having major exposure in the power sector. Anshu Sharma joins in with the details on this story.
That's right. The high-powered committee is headed by P.K. Sinha, the Cabinet Secretary, and will be represented by all the ministries which have relation with this thermal-based power plants. Now, we understand that the committee will take a look into various issues to resolve these coal-based power plants and will look into maximizing efficiency of investment and also see if there is any policy changes required, like fuel allocation and things like that. There is also 34 power projects which are based on coal, which is of about 40,000 megawatt, and the government has realized that the reason for stress on these coal-based power plants are because of non-availability of coal, cancellation of 204 coal blocks by the Supreme Court in 2014, and some of the projects which were auctioned without any assured fuel linkages, power purchase agreements are not coming for these assets to supply power. And there are more issues of delayed payment, aggressive tariffs bid by the companies, and And even some of the coal blocks which were auctioned, there are legal disputes related to those. So these are the issues which the high-powered committee will go through and come up with some resolution so that these assets do not become non-performing assets which are based on coal. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Anshu. Thanks very much for that. Well, let's move on now to some important news. DMK Supremo M. Karunanidhi's health is improving and his vital parameters are stable. The latest health bulletin is issued by the Kaveri Hospital states that the DMK leader is under constant medical supervision. DMK's working president, M.K. Stalin, also issued an advisory to the supporters appealing to stay calm and not create inconvenience to the public. Karunanidhi's health suffered a setback and his condition has worsened. Earlier on Sunday evening, the ailing 94-year-old politician has been suffering with high blood pressure and his pulse rate had dropped. He was admitted at the Kaveri Hospital on Friday night following complications related to blood pressure and renal ailments.